Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Mets Mania Podcast. I am Clayton Caldwell. The Mets, well, they didn't sweep the Pittsburgh Pirates. They instead lose the third game of the series against the Pirates. Mets were looking like they were in good shape. They had Nolan McLean on the mound, and McLean pitched okay, got a little bit of trouble here and there, but I thought other than that, he pitched pretty well. It really came down to the Mets offense. It came down to a very, very aggressive send home late in the game. It also came down to either not having enough pitchers or a bad decision by Carlos Mendoza. You decide. We'll talk about that all here on the Mets Mania Podcast. As the Mets drop the third game of this series by a score of 4-3 in 10 innings. A lot to get to. We're going to get to it all. Nolan McLean's outing, what I thought about it, the bullpen usage, a couple of questionable decisions by Carlos Mendoza. Of course, the send home, which was late. We'll talk about Bo Bichette's struggles and look ahead to the three-game series in St. Louis as Mets are on their way to St. Louis to take on the Cardinals for a three-game set Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But let's wrap up this series. The Mets took the first two games of the series against the Pirates, and they started here. Nolan McLean on the mound. Every Met fan, myself included, very happy and very excited to see Nolan McLean on the mound. He was facing Carmen Muginski. I'm trying to figure out how to say that because his name does not sound like or spell like how it's supposed to sound, but it's Muginski. And I felt like the Mets had the upper hand in the pitching department to start this game. So I felt very confident going in. McLean got off to a really, really rough start. His first two batters of the game, he walks right off the bat. O'Neal Cruz and Brandon Lau, who, boy, Lau was a pain in the neck this series. He gets back and strikes out Brian Reynolds on a couple of pitches that were borderline on that called strike, which was overturned. The Mets actually had to do a challenge on the third pitch of that at-bat to Reynolds, and it seemed like it sort of bounced McLean back into a good rhythm. He gets Reynolds to strike out, but then Ryan O'Hearn hit a fly ball to Juan Soto, a single, I should say, that dropped in front of Juan Soto. O'Neal Cruz scored, and Lau went to second, and then it was pretty much it. He got Triolo to fly out to right, and then Spencer Horwitz to fly out to left and got it out of it. So it was not a very good first inning for Nolan McLean, and he didn't seem like he had his great stuff until later on in the game. I think the first three innings he kind of labored through, and then all of a sudden we saw that good breaking stuff come through here in the fourth and fifth innings, and he was able to salvage a decent day. At the end of the day, he had a 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and he gave up a home run, which we'll get to in a little bit as well. So, very average start for Nolan McLean after what we saw from the 8 starts we saw from him last year. But overall, I thought he was pretty good. I mean, when somebody gives you 2 innings and 5 innings pitched, you should probably win that game when you got an offense like the New York Mets, and they weren't able to do it. But the guy, I think the biggest surprise was Muginski for Pittsburgh, who dominated the Mets, especially at the top of the order. That first inning, he struck out Lindor, Soto, and Bichette. 1, 2, 3, bam, bam, bam. And so that was kind of surprising. And then McLean pitches a spotless second. The Mets do get a single. Luis Robert Jr. hit a nice single up the middle. Then it was Brett Beatty, a single up the middle, and Marcus Semien, a fly ball to score the run, and it was 1-1. And Mets got even there with the sacrifice fly by Semien, who does that a lot. He's a sacrifice fly machine. He takes good at bats. He's got a 70% success rate at getting that runner home from third with less than 2 outs in his career. That is incredible. So he did it again to tie the game at 1 there in the second. And then Brandon Lau hit that home run in the third inning off of McLean, which was a shot, and it was just kind of surprising. Lau killed us this series. He's becoming quickly a Mets killer, here. and a guy that I don't want to see. It was really went with a high fastball. I didn't really like the pitch selection there. A high fastball on Lau, where for some reason he thought he could blow it by him, and Lau was ready for it and crushed it. And it was 2-1 Pittsburgh. The game remained 2-1. They were able to get Wolginski out of the game in the middle of the 5th inning. And Lindor tripled off Wolginski. And then Soto hit a single to right field. Lindor ball was probably the best ball he struck all weekend. A triple off the wall. Looked like it had some distance to get out. But Soto drove him in, make it 2-2. Wolginski got out of the game, and then the Pirates got out of it. So the game remained 2-2 through the 6th inning. The Mets brought in Huascar Brazoban to pitch, and Brazoban did really, really well. Pitched an inning and 2/3, didn't strike out anybody, but was spotless, didn't give a hit or a walk. He was really good. He pitched on Saturday as well for 2 batters. Got them easily, and he got through the 7th, no problem. Pretty much through the 7th, I should say. He pitched the 6th and then got 2 outs in the 7th. He got Henry Davis to fly out in the 7th and Jake Mangum to bounce back to himself. And then the Mets made an interesting decision. They went with Sean Manaea in the 7th inning there to face O'Neal Cruz. Really, here's the lane they chose for Manaea. O'Neal Cruz, Brandon Lau, Brian Roberts, Ryan O'Hearn. Roberts is a switch hitter, but the other 3 are lefties. So not a bad lane for Sean Manaea. Cruz historically is not good against lefties. I thought maybe they'd pinch hit for him there. They did not. He ripped the single to Carson Benj in right field there, 104-mile-an-hour exit velocity. And then Brandon Lau crushed one to Marcus Semien, but he was right there at second base. And they were able to get out of it unscathed. The Mets then put a little bit of a rally together in the bottom of the 7th. And to me, this was the turning point of the game. This was where the Mets had a chance to strike. Bottom of the 7th inning, Mason Montgomery came on to pitch for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He came on to face Carson Benj, Luis Torrens, Francisco Lindor, and if it got that far, Juan Soto and Bo Bichette. So Benj went down swinging, and listen, Benj is a young player here. I like Benj. I think he's done a good job here, but I think I would have gone Vientos again against the lefty Montgomery. With what I saw from Vientos yesterday, he put together a capable at-bat. Empty your bench here. Let's get Benj against a tough lefty out of the game. He has not looked great offensively. That home run was a great shot there on opening day. Or was it Saturday he hit it? I think it was opening day he hit it, actually, later. Yeah, it was opening day he hit it. He looked great on that home run, but other than that, he's kind of looked like a guy who's in his first week in the big leagues. And so, in a tough spot like that, I would have considered Vientos there. But he went down strike 3, fastball 99 miles an hour, right down the middle, swung through it. And so Benj went down swinging. Then you had Luis Torrens, a beautiful single off Montgomery. And then it was Lindor. Lindor hit another single. Torrens went to second. So you had first and second, 1 out. Juan Soto coming to the plate. And this was the opportunity for the Mets to strike. They threw a wild pitch during that at-bat to move the runners up. So Torrens at third, Lindor at second. All the Mets need to do, all Soto needs to do here is hit a fly ball, a stinking fly ball, deep enough to score Torrens. Now, would I have run, when that runner moved to third there, would I have ran Tyrone Taylor there? I probably would have. Ran Tyrone Taylor there to make sure that if I hit a medium fly ball to center field, that run's going to score. I probably would have. Maybe they wanted to stay away from Alvarez, which we'll get to. There's another kind of an interesting situation that happens later on in the game. But I think I would have ran out Tyrone Taylor there just to make sure of a fly ball. But it was moot anyway because Soto had, and the 2 worst at-bats, I think, of this series for the Mets, both included Juan Soto. You could say, well, Bo Bichette this, Bo Bichette that. Yeah, and Bichette has not looked good. And I'll get to part of the reasons why. You got to remember, he admitted to pressing at the end of the game. I think there's other reasons of why he might be struggling here offensively. We'll get to that. But to me, Soto has no excuse. This is Soto's second year here. He has now become a leader of this team. You need to step up here if you're Juan Soto. You have to. And second and third, 1 out, 3-2 count. And the pitch from Montgomery is about a foot high. I'm not kidding you. A foot high. He threw a fastball 99.5 miles an hour. That was probably at Soto's eyes. Take it. Your bases loaded with 1 out and Bichette up. Yeah, Bichette's struggling. But take it. I don't know what Soto's trying to do. Maybe he's trying to do too much because, again, this is his second year here, and maybe he feels like he has to do too much with this team. I don't know. But a terrible strikeout by Soto, swinging. It was a check swing, but still swung at a pitch. Well, he went. There was no even question that he swung. Swinging at a pitch at his eyes. Strike 3. Goodbye. 2 outs now. And Bichette gets up there and strikes out as well. 3 pitches. Boom, boom, boom. Good night. Bichette went out, and that really killed the Mets in the 7th inning. 101 mile an hour fastball from Montgomery there to strike out. And that, to me, was the turning point of this game for the Mets. They had a chance to strike there. Second and third, 1 out. Your 2 best hitters coming to the plate, who's supposed to be your 2 best hitters coming to the plate, and they both strike out there. I thought that was awful. An awful job by everyone involved, including Soto and Bichette, obviously. Now, Manaea starts the 8th for the Mets and does a great job. I'll give him credit. I am, and if you've listened to this podcast, I've been very down on Sean Manaea. And people who are close to me know that. I've been very vocal about Manaea. I was not wanting him in this game at all. But he needs a pitch. If he's on the roster, he's got to pitch. So I don't blame Mendy for using him. I just think the fact that they called him a piggyback reliever and then they use him for an inning and a third doesn't really seem like that's the case, that he was a piggyback guy. And if they had full trust in him, they would have pitched him more than an inning and a third. Especially with Luke Weaver, who's going to be pitching back-to-back days. They're going to be pitching him more than an inning and a third if they trusted him. So he gets Reynolds on called strikes to start the 8th. Reynolds did not look good in some cases today, but it was a high fastball. Got him looking. Got Ryan O'Hearn at a sweeper. So 2 outs to start the 8th inning. Then he walked Triolo, walked Nick York, and Nick Gonzalez hit a 108 mile an hour exit velo to Marcus Semien to end the frame, who flipped it to Lindor to get the force out at second. Keeping the game 2-2. Keep my fingers crossed there with Manaea. Gets it done. It wasn't easy, but got it done. The game remains tied. Mets go to the 8th. Meekly. Terrible job. Isaac Matson replaces Mason Montgomery. Polanco lines out. Robert goes down, which really was his only bat at bat from the last 2 days, it seems like. And then Brett Beatty struck out swinging as well. So that 8th inning, they did nothing. And ultimately, I think that's where this fault of this game lies. To me, on this offense didn't do enough. And especially at the top of the lineup, we'll get to Bichette's struggles here. But Soto didn't have a great day. I know he drove in a run. Lindor didn't have a great day. I know he hit a triple. But I think overall today, Polanco was 0 for 5 today at the DH spot. You know, he had a couple of big walks on Saturday's game, but he hasn't really knocked the cover off the ball. Semien, we haven't seen a whole lot of offensively. Benj, we haven't seen a whole lot of offensively. So there's quite a few guys. Bichette, batting .071 after 3 games. Polanco got 1 hit. after 3 games. Semien, we haven't really seen a lot of. Benj, his only hits a home run. So this offense is good, but there's a couple of guys I think sputtering right now that really need to pick it up. And I think that's the ultimate reason why, if you gave me one overall reason of why we lost this game, it's the offense. They didn't hit enough. So we go to the 9th, and Luke Weaver comes in to pitch the 9th inning, walked Henry Davis, got Mangum on a sacrifice bunt. So Davis moved to second, got O'Neill Cruz, called down on strikes. Then he walked Brandon Lau, who seemed to kill us in this series, and he got Brian Reynolds to ground to Bo Bichette to end the frame, which was a big, big pitch. So the Mets moved to the bottom of the 9th inning, 2-2 game. Chance to win it, send the fans home happy. Second consecutive walk-off win. That's what they're looking for here in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Mendoza makes an interesting move here, and one of the first ones I'm going to critique here. And this one, I'd really love to hear his explanation. I don't know if he was asked in a post-game. SNY posted a post-game press conference, but it had the wrong audio. So I don't really know if he was specifically asked. I know in the clips that I saw, he was not. But I'd be curious for his thinking about his pinch hitting situation here in the 9th inning. But let's start with the bottom of the 9th. I'll paint the scenario for you. Bottom of the 9th, Dennis Santana, the closer for Pittsburgh, the former Met, comes in. Marcus Semien hits a fly ball to O'Neill Cruz. Then Carson Benz lines out to Jake Mangum. 2 outs. Nobody on. And Luis Torrens is the scheduled hitter. Now, Torrens on the day was 1 for 3. He had a big hit in Saturday's game. I didn't think you needed to hit for Luis Torrens here. I didn't think you did. Hey, it's not like, he's so bad that you have to get him out of there. Defensively, he's terrific. So if Pittsburgh's trying to steal bases or something like that, I'd rather have Torrens in there than Alvarez. Although Alvarez is fine defensively, but I'd rather have Torrens in there. And so I didn't really get that one. To me, the value of pulling Torrens would have been for speed, like when he was on base in the 7th. But Mendoza does, and I got to tell you, I don't like pinch hitting for him, but I hate, and I mean hate, H-A-T-E, capitalized, underlined, italic, exclamation points after. I hate hitting Jared Young there. Hate it. To me, if you want to pinch hit for Torrens, you're going to use your catcher, your second catcher anyway. At that point is Francisco Alvarez. Alvarez is a far better hitter than Jared Young. And maybe there's something, and I don't know the details. That's kind of what I wanted to hear from Mendoza. Maybe there's something about Dennis Santana against lefty batters through the analytics, that he's not that good against lefty hitters or righties. But still, Jared Young? That's the guy you decide, you know what, I'm going to go with Jared Young here. And we haven't seen him all year. He hasn't batted in the first 2 games at all. And I could see him saying, well, we needed to get his bat in there. You don't need to get his bat in there in a tie game in the 9th inning with 2 outs. I don't understand that one. And if your mind is made up that, hey, I'm going to hit for Luis Torrens with Jared Young, you know what I do? If that's in your thought process, if you're Carlos Mendoza, right, where you're looking at this line, at this inning, and you're trying to map it out and saying, here, okay, what gives me my best opportunity to win? Well, the best opportunity for you to win there is not letting Carson Bench hit, because you're going to have to, if you're going to pull Luis Torrens, you're going to have to use Alvarez anyway, and Alvarez is a good hitter. Right? Like, he's a great hitter. You're going to have to use Alvarez anyway. So why not hit Alvarez for Bench, right? Say, you know what? I'm going to hit Alvarez here for Carson Bench, and then, knowing that I'm going to pull Torrens anyway, and then I'll bring in Jared Young to hit. And maybe Alvarez runs into one and we go home happy. But it makes no sense to use Jared Young and not use Francisco Alvarez offensively. Because guess what happens? When we start the 10th, Alvarez is going to come in and catch anyway. So what the hell did you hit Jared Young for? It's perplexing to me. I'd love to hear the explanation. The only thing I can think of is that Dennis Santana, the closer of the Pirates, has troubles with left-handed hitters. And even in that case, I still wouldn't have pulled the plug on Terrence. I don't think there was a need to. If you wanted to sell me, the sell would have been, well, Alvarez is the better hitter. He is the better hitter. Okay, fine. Let's try and win it with Alvarez. Stupid. Jared Young, a guy who barely made this team out of spring training. And I know all the analytic people and all the people who sat there and loved Jared Young. Oh, you're killing him. I'm not trying to kill him, but the guy is a decent bench player. And yeah, there might be some opportunities. You want to hit Jared Young for Carson Bench? I might be okay with that in the 9th inning. I might be okay with that. But I do not understand using Jared Young over Francisco Alvarez. I'm sorry, I don't. He's not that good of a hitter to do that. If you got Rusty Staub on the bench, hell yeah. And Dennis Santana is bad against lefties, or you got a good lefty on the bench, okay, I can live with that. I'll make that bet. But awful. Jared Young, I hated that decision. Hated it. I don't mean to go on. And I don't think it cost us the game today. I said it before. I think the offense did. But, man, I hated that decision. And, of course, Young goes down swinging to end the frame. And the Mets moved to the 10th inning. Now, the 10th inning, Luke Weaver pitched back-to-back days, and now you're going to Richard Lovelady. And Richard Lovelady is let's be honest, he's a 4A pitcher. He should not be pitching in these games in the 10th inning. He shouldn't be. And that's on Mendoza. Mendoza, my biggest knock of Mendoza for using Lovelady is he doesn't go with his multi-inning relievers enough, as far as he doesn't let them pitch multiple innings. Like, Huascar Brazoban is a multi-inning reliever. He's been touted that. Pitched an inning and 2/3 today. I know he pitched 4 pitches yesterday. Give me a break. He can't go another inning or another couple of outs. Sean Manaea goes, it's 4 outs today. He's a starter. He's stretched out to be a starter. You pitch him in an inning and a third today? I mean, I didn't love going with Manaea. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'd rather have Manaea pitch a couple of innings and then say, you know what? I got Luke Weaver in my back pocket. If we take the lead, he's my closer. I don't want to see anybody else today. I'd rather lose going down with Sean Manaea than lose going to the 10th inning and have Richard Lovelady pitching. He doesn't use his multi-inning relievers enough. He doesn't. And it bites him in the ass every time. This has happened too much. How many times do we see these guys who are going to get DFA'd? And let me tell you something. Lovelady's getting DFA'd tomorrow. There's no question. The Mets need an arm. They need a fresh arm. We're 3 games into the year. We already need fresh arms because of 2 extra inning games, and our starters haven't gone deep into games, which is the biggest problem. But we'll get to that in a little bit. That the Mets need to make a roster move tomorrow. They have to. Because they need another pitcher up there with a fresh arm. And Lovelady's going to get DFA'd. So here's a guy you're going to DFA tomorrow, pitching in a tie game in the 10th inning. Huh? Because you don't use your multi-inning relievers, which we all year, all offseason, we hear, the Mets, they got multi-inning relievers. Gary Cohen touched on it today on the broadcast. You know what they need? You know what we're going to see now? The multi-inning reliever is so important. Well, we have a couple of them with the Mets. Tobias Myers, who did great. They used him perfectly on Thursday. I don't think he was available today. I don't think he should have been available today. I thought he wasn't available after Thursday. If you listen to Thursday's show, I sat there and told you, Tobias Myers is not going to be available until we get to St. Louis. And he wasn't available today, which I understand. He got through 39 pitches on Thursday. He's on 2 days rest. Come on. The biggest problem is you have Huascar Brazoban who threw 4 pitches on Saturday, which was totally not needed. And if you do bring him in, why not pitch him in the 7th inning yesterday? You got your multi-inning relievers. You go for 2 outs yesterday, 4 pitches. Keep Luke Weaver in the bullpen, so he's fresh today. Maybe give us 2 innings today. It's dumb. Or you have Brazoban go until he can't go anymore, until he stinks, and you keep Weaver and Brooks Raley, who you can't use on back-to-back days because you have never done that because he's 38 years old, however old he is. Like, it makes no sense. That's my critique with Mendoza. He doesn't use his multiple inning relievers for multiple innings. It's stupid. Why are they there? And that's why Richard Lovelady had to be thrust into this game, into the 10th inning. And listen, he stinks. He's not a good reliever. There's no question about it. I'm not going to sit there and tell you he is a good reliever. But he shouldn't be in these games in the 10th inning. That's on the manager. So, yeah, of course, he gives up a single to Ryan O'Hearn right off the bat. Reynolds is a ghost runner right off the bat, 3-2 Pirates. And you sit there and go, okay, you know what? He got Jared Sciolo the grounded to double play, 2 outs in the 9th. Great. You got 2 outs. Okay. Then he walked Nick York. Now, and then he walked Nick Gonzalez. After the Gonzalez walk, I would have gone with literally anybody else but Richard Lovelady. I would have had somebody loosening up. If you wanted to bring in Myers for a couple of outs, yeah. Now, you could sit there and say, well, maybe that's managing kind of crazy because now Myers is going to be available tomorrow, right? Like, your multiple inning reliever is going to be available tomorrow with Clay Holmes, who's pitching, who's gives you 5 on a good day. And then you could use Tobias Myers. Okay, you're probably right. But if Holmes goes out and gets obliterated tomorrow, 6-0, I'm going to use Tobias Myers in a 6-0 game instead of a tie game or a 1-run game here in the 9th inning, or 10th inning, I should say, at this point. Come on. But instead, he leaves him in. Henry Davis singles, 4-2 Pirates. And then he finally gets Mangum to strike out swinging. So the Mets down now 2 runs going to the bottom of the 10th inning, and you didn't feel good. You didn't feel good at all. Jose Urquidy pitched the 10th for Pittsburgh. The Mets had a runner on second, of course, which was Francisco Alvarez, since Jared Young struck out to end the frame, which, again, dopey. I would have let Terens hit, and if you wanted to use Young so badly, run him at second base here in the 10th inning. You could have ran him and then used Alvarez to catch in the 11th if you had to. I just don't understand the need to get Young's bat into the game. It drives me nuts thinking about it. But anyway, Francisco Lindor walks. Beautiful at-bat. Lindor, 3-2 pitch, worked the count great, and took a fastball above the strike zone, one that was similar to what Soto struck out on in the 7th. He took the walk, and now you have first and second, nobody out. Juan Soto coming to the plate. Soto, clutch, hard hit double to left center field. Ball bounces off the wall. O'Neill Cruz picks it up, throws it in. Alvarez scores from second, no problem. Tim Leeper, the third base coach for the Mets, the new third base coach for the Mets, 3 games in, waves Francisco Lindor home. You got to remember the situation here. Now down a run, 4-3, because Alvarez scores. Lindor going to be scoring from first, which he probably shouldn't be scoring from first on a ball he shouldn't be scoring from first on. He waves him home. You have Bichette, your 3-hitter, your 4-hitter, Polanco, and then Luis Robert, your 5-hitter, due up with nobody out in second and third. That's the situation Leeper could have had. Second and third, nobody out. And Bichette, who's been awful, no question. Polanco, who hadn't hit that day, but gives you a good at-bat. And then if you have to, the man who won it the night before, Luis Robert Jr., at the plate, with no double play situation really in play here because it's second and third. You get 2 opportunities to hit a fly ball to shallow left center, to shallow right center, wherever you want to hit it, and Lindor should score and we win the ball game. Or tie the game, at least, I should say. And we continue. Instead, he sends Lindor home. Lindor gets thrown out. A bad call, no question about it. And Mendoza kind of fell on a sword for him, saying, oh, we talked about being aggressive this series. It's funny. We weren't aggressive yesterday when I felt like we should have been a couple of times, but today we were. I thought it was bad. A bad send. No question. I can't defend it. Leeper did a bad job there. When you look at the situation, he did a bad job there. So he's out. Bichette grounds out. 2 outs. And then Polanco, which for a split second, I thought off the bat might have gotten the legs to get out. For a split second, I went, oop. And then I realized, it didn't have the legs. And it was just WTP, as they say, warning track power. And the Mets fall to the Pittsburgh Pirates by a score of 4-3. And so a little bit of an aggravating game because the offense had opportunities today. They really did. They had a lot of opportunities, but unfortunately they weren't able to scratch enough runs across to get the victory, and the Mets lose. And they took the series from Pittsburgh, but ultimately did not sweep them, and on to St. Louis they go. So a tough day, but let me say this. There's no need to panic. I hear people booing Bo Bichette at Citi Field today. I thought that was unbelievable. This guy's 3 games into his Mets career. We're going to be booing this guy. I know he's 1 for 14, but come on. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And he handled it great with the post-game press conference saying, hey, I'd be booing me too, or whatever he said. Like, I'm surprised they didn't do it earlier, right? Great job. Great job by Bo Bichette. He's a pro. His dad was a pro. And he knows what's going on. But he's got to be better. There's no question about that. 1 for 14 is not good enough. I think it's perfect time for him to go on the road, forget about the home crowd, and kind of settle into this season. Go to St. Louis, relax a little bit, get a couple of hits, come back in a couple of days, in a couple of weeks. Hopefully the Mets get a bunch of wins. He's feeling good, and this will be a mirage of what happened here the first 3 games. But to boo him is insane. I know he's had some defensive issues, and I think honestly, that's affecting his offensive performance. I think he's trying to do too much. He's pressing offensively, knowing he's not great defensively. And he went out there today, apparently, and did ground balls between batting practice in the game. He went out and did some ground balls at third base. So it's wearing on him. He wants to be better. And I get it. He signed a big contract. $43 million. He wants to be great at third base. He wants to be great at the plate. And he wants to be great for the Mets. And I get it. And I give him credit for wanting to be great and how he handled it today. But he hasn't been good enough. There's no question. But the Mets are 2-1. Let's not go crazy. I saw people saying, oh, this is a $43 million mistake by Bo Bichette. Are we serious? Are we serious? 3 games into it is his contract and his tenure here. We're serious? Come on. Let's be real here. And the boom is insane. Insane. So I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to be fine. But I do think maybe his defense in his throwing, where he's tailing the ball towards, towards the runner, at least he did yesterday. I don't think he had a bad throw today. But I think that's affecting him. I do. So hopefully that gets all worked out. And in a week here, we're talking about something completely different. And we say, remember when Bo Bichette had these issues at the plate and issues at third base? Remember that? That's what I hope we're saying. But I'm confident he'll be okay. Soto, I think, will be fine. But Soto had some really tough at-bats this weekend. I was not thrilled with some of the at-bats he had. The thing I don't like about Soto's at-bats was he is a disciplined hitter, supposed to be a disciplined hitter, and he's striking out on pitches outside the strike zone. A couple of times he did today. He did it yesterday once in a big spot. Like, it's one thing not to produce, and he's done a decent job producing. That double was huge, right? But it's another thing, too, and that 7th inning killed me. You could have walked to load the bases with 1 out, and he swings at a pitch above his eyes. Like, what are you doing? That was just so bad. But I think he's going to be fine, too. I do. So St. Louis is a bad team. The Mets go to St. Louis now. They're a bad team. We saw them a lot in spring training. They don't have a lot of big leaguers. They're a rebuilding team. Chaim Bloom, a new general manager there. Ollie Marmol, the horrific manager they got there that they keep paying money for some reason. And so they go to St. Louis, and the Mets better feast. They got to take 2 or 3 here in St. Louis. Monday's game starts at 7:45. Clay Holmes with Kyle Lely. Tuesday, 7:45, Kodai Senga versus Andre Palante. And then Wednesday's getaway day, 1:15, Freddie Peralta against Matt Liberatore, lefty. First lefty starter the Mets will see in 2026. So obviously we'll see a little bit of different lineup. You'd think Vientos would be in there somewhere, somehow, which we'll get to on Wednesday, I'm sure. But let's not panic yet. Mets are 2-1. They're 2-1. The offense doesn't look great, no question about it. There's some guys in this team that need to be better offensively, Bichette included. I'm not panicking. We can't panic. We look like fools panicking this early in the year. And I get, and booing Bo Bichette. I get Bichette come here and he's kind of replacing Alonso per se, and Alonso's a very popular player. But let's not boo him. That's not his fault. It's not his fault. Now you want to sit there and I'm all for booing if he's here a month or a month and a half and he's middle of May and he's batting 200. Boo the hell out of him. That's fine. 3 games? Come on. Something to keep in mind here as we go to St. Louis as well. Mendoza, before the game, had a press conference and talked about Brett Baty, and they asked him specifically, when did we see Baty in the outfield? Because Baty played a lot of outfield, played right field specifically in spring training. And he pointed to, well, I'm going to play Baty in right field when Carson Bench plays center when Luis Robert gets a rest. I don't think that was a coincidence that he brought that up at the time he did. I think tomorrow, on Monday, Luis Robert is not going to be in the lineup. They don't want to play him more than 2 or 3 days consecutively. He played all 3 games. They had the off day on Friday. So it was 3 games, but only 2 consecutively. I think he's going to get a respite here on Monday. They're going to put Benj in center and Baty in right. And Polanco at first base. Or maybe Vientos. I don't know. I don't know how they'll play at first base. I'd be shocked if it's Vientos, but whatever. Busch Stadium. Gonna be fun. Baseball's back. That's what's great about it. And I'm not going to sit there and tell you it was a great series. I mean, Pittsburgh's a tough team. Brandon Lau was tough. Ryan O'Hearn had a big series. But the Mets come away with a series victory to start the year. Okay. Let's get our feet under us. A brand new team. Everybody in the lineup pretty much is new. Get the first series at Citi Field in cold weather. Thursday was nice. Saturday was freezing cold. Sunday was a little better. But let's get that series out of the way. We go to St. Louis. Then they go to San Francisco out west for 4. A team that just got swept and looked bad against the Yankees. So hopefully that continues when we go to San Francisco here. But that's where we are with this team. So I'm not going to lie to you and say that Sunday wasn't a disappointing day. It was for me. It was a very disappointing day, but we can't panic. We can't panic. 3 games into the year. Bichette's 1 for 14. Let's not panic. The positive things that we could take away from, I think, a couple positives. Knock on wood. I'll knock on my desk right now. Nobody's hurt that we saw. It looked like Lindor came up a little lame after getting tagged out on that bang bang play at home. He's fine, according to everybody that I read. So that's good. That we don't have to worry about Lindor being banged up at all. But everybody else, I can't think of another even remotely close to an injury. I thought the bullpen was pretty good. Brazoban looked great, although he's probably going to be unavailable tomorrow. Weaver's going to be unavailable, but he looked good in his first 2 outings. And I think we're going to have a new pitcher for Lovelady. So keep that in mind here as we get ready for Monday as well, where Richard Lovelady's probably going to give a DFA. And hopefully we'll have another pitcher here. Not sure who. I guess it depends on who pitched for Syracuse and when. That'll be the defining factor here. So, not the best series in the world, no question about it, but the Mets will move on. We move on. And that's all I got for you tonight on a Metsmania podcast. We'll be back here. Most likely we'll do another podcast here in between this series on Monday and Tuesday. Most likely after Tuesday's games, I would think. But we'll see if Monday warrants one. If it's a meltdown, a bad loss, or a good win, maybe we'll do one Monday. And we'll skip Tuesday. We'll see how we play it out. But we'll definitely have one for you after the series against St. Louis. We'll talk about the whole series. and everything you need to know there. But I want to thank everybody for listening to the Metsmania podcast and for the support as we try and build this thing into a fun, consistent podcast. Thanks so much, everybody. Let's go, Mets. We'll see you in St. Louis.